Welcome back to the Channel Sales Insights podcast. My name is Terry Richardson, and I'll continue to host each session on behalf of the sales community. I've really been looking forward to this episode for two reasons. First, the feedback from the first few sessions from former colleagues, friends, new acquaintances has been really positive, so keep those comments coming. Also, I'm especially excited about our guest this month. I'm pleased to be joined by Scott Dunsire, who's a friend and former colleague that has a lot of experience to share with the go-to-market ecosystem. He'll provide a 360-degree perspective and is uniquely qualified to do so. Scott is one of the few who have reached the pinnacle as a channel chief and now serves as CEO of a highly respected solution provider. Scott, before we begin, I wanted to share one quick story that I don't think I've ever told you. When we were both working HP and channel roles, I think I was doing the data center stuff, you were doing the client stuff at the time. And we were with CDW at a Monday after the Masters event in South Carolina. And you were going out to golf, I think it was the Pro-Am, and I stayed in the condo to do a channel forecast call. I don't know if you remember that. I won't name names, but I had to do a forecast call. It was a daily forecast call at the time. And later that day, you gave me the wise advice to not let internally focused work get in the way of quality time with partners and customers. And that really stuck with me for the remainder of my career. And I don't think I missed too many fun events after that. So thanks for that advice.
Oh, well, I know your head was always buried in some sort of forecast when you were on the TSG side and I was on the PSG side. So
same company, but different experiences.
Yeah, no question. No question.
All right, so let's jump in. Why don't you share with the audience, Scott, a little bit about your background? I know it, but a lot listening don't. And as CEO of Melillo, a high-level overview of Melillo Consulting would be a great way to start as well.
Sure. Well, listen, Terry, thanks for the opportunity here. I look forward to having a conversation. I've been pretty fortunate in my career to be able to work in the channel. It's really been surreal. If I could have picked a career really that I would love, I would have never thought it would be IT channel sales, but it's really turned out to be really a special place. When I started out, when I got out of college, I played sports in college, and I was kind of looking for a competitive, type of, opportunity, and all the ex-jocks, people who think they were athletes, seem to be going into to become stockbrokers. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll follow suit, and went to work for Fidelity Investments, and I think the Dow was under 2,000 at the time. So maybe not the best move to not stay in the financial services industry. All kidding aside, and from there, I really realized that burying my face into a computer screen and looking at quotes all day long and trying to get a hold of customers, it really wasn't for me, and I really needed to be out of the office, with people. That's what really drove me. So I found an opportunity in Chicago working for a reseller. The company was named Crown Zellerbach. They were a $100 million company. And I had a boss who drew a circle around the western suburbs of Chicago and said, that's your territory. There were no customers. And I really learned what it was like to cold call and get kicked out of offices. And I think that's missing today, because obviously you can't even go into an office to do that. But from there, I built some pretty good relationships with the vendors. IBM. I think we were selling IBM PCs with 5.25-inch floppy disks, which I'm sure Gen X doesn't even know what that is. But the technology industry's changed so dramatically in the last 35 plus years. But it really gave me an opportunity to build some relationships with the vendor partners, because obviously we were a reseller, and ended up on the OEM side. That was always really appealing to me. To have a big name on a business card. It was easier to get in and get meetings with customers. So it's kind of ironic how my career has circled back, to working for a partner. But I think that OEM relationship that I had really allowed me to find some opportunities. So I worked for Canon, and we started a division called Canon Computer Systems, and we went from zero to $1 billion in 3 years. That was an exciting time in my career. A lot of young, energetic people, a big company behind us, and we were able to build the business really fast. And from there, I ended up at Hewlett Packard, and it was really all the relationships I had built along the way. I got recruited to HPE from a former boss of mine, and really that's where those were the jobs that really gave me the experiences to do what I'm doing today. So it's been a long career. It started out on the street, went into to leadership and management, and now I have the opportunity to run Melillo. But prior to that, real quick story. When I was at HPE, a friend of mine, partner that I had known for 20 years, called me and said, "Hey, I'm selling my company to private equity, and I need somebody to run the company. Are you interested?" And about that time, I think we were on our Terry, fourth CEO, and
Yep.
6, 7 years at HP. Lots of changes. Split the company into two organizations, which arguably was a difficult time for a lot of people. Was it good or bad? I mean, the jury's probably out on that. But just a lot of disruption, a lot of internal focus. I'm like, this is a great opportunity to at least talk. And so I decided that I would go do that, work for private equity for 5 years, bought 3 companies. We took the company from 80 million to over 300 million in the 5 years that I was doing that. And one of the companies I tried to buy was Melillo. Melillo, was on my advisory board at HPE. I mean, Terry, you know him real well. We started the company, Mark started the business 38 years ago. And we got all the way down through due diligence. And, Mark decided that he really didn't want to sell, that he really liked, like the model, like the family culture that we have at Melillo. And he had some sons that were, starting to get interested in the business, in the IT space. And so he made the decision to keep it. But, 3 months later, he called and said, "Hey, I'd like to take a chairman role, but I would like somebody to run the company." Melillo was very attractive to me for a number of reasons. I tried to buy them at ACP because they had some technical talent that was second to none, especially in the infrastructure and the data center and the storage space, which we didn't really have at ACP at the time. And also it had a family culture. If you've worked in Fortune 50 companies your whole career, you know it's a grind. It can be rewarding, and you meet some incredibly bright people, but it's not a family culture. It's a fast-paced environment, and at the end of the day, the family culture, for the last 10 years, 15 years of my career, that was appealing to me. Because Melillo started 38 years ago. Really, Mark left HP. He was a solutions architect, engineer, left HP, started his own business with one customer, and it was AT&T. And really started out as a consultant, thus the Melillo Consulting, title. And really from there, it just kind of grew into a really a true solution provider, mostly focused on the data center and the infrastructure space. Although we'll sell other products, most of the products or services that we sell are really focused more around the infrastructure and the data center space. And we'll continue to evolve that over the years. But really, that's the background. That's how I got to Melillo. We've got a really strong base of employees, committed employees. I think our average tenure is 15 years. Which says a lot about the company and the culture. And at the end of the day, there's no strategy ever that can overcome a bad culture. And I think that's part of the secret of the success of Melillo, for sure.
No, I think, Scott, you've obviously had a great run, and good for you that it's continuing, and I think you're being modest because, some think of Melillo as, that know it as kind of a regional player, but I think I read recently you guys have expanded internationally. So what's kind of the focus now? You've got a track record of aggressively growing things. How do you keep that going at Melillo?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Melillo is based on a strong foundation. And I think you have to have that. Even if you're building a house, you're not going to build it on sand if you don't have a good foundation.
Yeah.
So we have a good, strong foundation. We have a lot of great customers that we've had for some 30 years. But one of the things that we hadn't done prior to me getting here is we really haven't expanded geographically or internationally. So one of the opportunities that I saw when I came here is that we have an opportunity, because we have a very stable organization, is we want focused growth. We don't want growth just for the sake of growth. We don't want to invest in areas that are too risky per se.
Yeah.
But we do see, if we bring on the right people that fit into the culture of the company, and we focus in on some geographic expansion, that we have an opportunity to grow this business the right way in areas where we really have strengths, both on the infrastructure side from a vendor perspective, as well as the services side. And so, in the last 3 years, we've expanded to the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley area. We've expanded down into Nashville, Tennessee, and we've also expanded overseas. We opened an office in London, and we're looking at a couple spots right now in Switzerland, and really that's mostly driven by our customers. We didn't wake up one day and said, hey, we're gonna open an office in Switzerland and we're gonna open in London just for the heck of it. Because of our strong relationships here, our customers said, hey, we would really like to do business with you in these geographies. Can you do it? And you and I both know doing business internationally is not easy.
Right.
In buying internationally for customers is not easy. So having a trusted partner that can work with in both geographies is a huge benefit if you can do it right.
And it's a great time to be in the channel still, with infrastructure booming, data center especially, and also the need for services. Technology continues to change. The skill sets are just lacking in many companies, and it's no wonder you guys are having so much success.
Yeah. And today's environment with AI, agentic AI, really starting to change the game. There's still a lot of uncertainty in with CIOs and with lines of business leaders, including boards of directors. How much of this infrastructure should we have on-prem? How much should be in the cloud? I mean, 88% of AI workloads are being run on-prem. And which provides a significant opportunity for companies like Melillo, who have expertise in that area. Data. When you look at data migration and things, I mean, it gets more and more complicated with some of these models. So to have a trusted advisor that you can work with in different geographies for consistency, is a message that's resonating with a lot of our customer set.
Yeah, and there's lots to talk about in the data space, including security, right? With AI, I mean, everything is on the table for you guys to find ways to help and stay close to what your customers need.
Yeah, and it's allowed us to build deeper relationships with our current vendors, but it also has opened up our eyes to a number of other vendors, newer vendors, people that honestly I never heard of. And whether it be on the services side or whether it be on the infrastructure side, we're uncovering, because of the credibility we've built along the way, we're opening up some incredible networking opportunities, and we're working with more than one strategic vendor and expanding our networking capabilities. That's one area, I think, area of expansion that we can do a better job of in the organization. I mean, who doesn't need, Wi-Fi? Who doesn't need, campus and branch equipment? So lots of exciting things moving forward for Melillo.
Good for you. I'm going to watch closely. So talking about vendors, kind of the first question when we set this session up that came to mind to me, and why I thought you'd be a really interesting guest is you've built and led very large channel organizations at scale, right? And we know that the tip of the arrow for organizations is the PBM or the channel account manager, right? And so I'm curious, when you were in your channel leadership role, you had a view of what a good PBM or CAM looks like and the attributes you were looking for in the hiring profile. Now that you're on the Melillo side of the table, or even ACP, but on the solution
Yeah.
provider side, I'm curious if the role of the PBM and the value that you see is the same profile, or have things changed in the way you think about PBMs?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I will tell you, I wish I would have had this experience before I ran
Before being the channel chief?
before being a channel chief. I would have had a much better perspective of what works and what doesn't work. Because, as you and I have discussed over the years, when you're a channel PBM, you're responsible for forecasts and some operational issues.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that, PBMs that are just reporting the news aren't really good PBMs or CAMs. It's the CAMs and the PBMs that show up, number one. And you would be surprised at how many partner reps don't show up, right? They mail it in and they cover their tail, but they're not engaged. They don't understand our business. They don't understand how we make money as an organization. But the good CAMs, the good PBMs, they're difference makers.
Yeah.
The relationships that they're building with the team on a daily basis really are very helpful to us because we can count on them. If they're trustworthy, if they do what they say they're going to do, we can take the answer, no, we can't do that. But what we can't take is, let me get back to you, and then never hear back.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, and I don't know, maybe just we just didn't grow up that way where that was an acceptable practice. But accountability is a big thing for me.
Yep.
And if we're assigned to you, our job, our goal is to make you successful. So if you're getting paid and evaluated on Melillo's business, we want to make you successful. On the other hand, there is something that goes along with that, and that is we need you to show up, we need you to be engaged, and we need you to handle problems. Especially now with memory price changes, with supply chain challenges, there's a lot of busy work that's going on behind the scenes and changing, quotes changing on a quarterly or a monthly basis, a weekly basis in some cases. We need a good PBM because the last thing you want is you want our team, our salespeople in front of our customers, not being able to deliver credible information. And you're our link into that credible information. So,
Yeah.
I probably didn't know as much as I needed to when I was running the channels on what each one of our PBMs were doing. But the good ones are difference makers. And I will tell you, this is this is a fact. I've had a few PBMs over the last 7 years of running companies that I've asked to be removed because it was a negative influence on our team. They didn't want to sell the product. They did everything they could to move it to a different vendor because they didn't like working with the person. On the other hand, I've also requested PBMs that had got moved off our account for whatever reason to get them back.
Yeah.
Because they were difference makers, and my teams had a lot of faith in their abilities to be able to deliver good information, and more importantly, it's not just happy hours or a football game, or it's delivering value and being trusted.
Yeah.
Because as you know, our salespeople are they're coin operated, and they're paid on gross
When
margin.
they need help, they need information, they need it quickly.
They need it quickly. So
Yeah.
not having an answer is okay. but not communicating is not. And I think that's, probably didn't know enough about that when I was running, channels. Um, but it is a difference maker, and it's one that I cherish a lot because, there should be a high expectation on
Yeah.
both sides.
And I'm dating myself, but I know when I first got involved in the channel many, many years ago, the initial perception was it was for folks that couldn't cut it as direct sales reps, right?
Yeah,
They ended up in a channel role.
yeah,
And now I think the pendulum's really swung. I think that first line channel leadership role is incredibly strategic and makes all the difference to the success or failure of any given partnership that vendors invest in. And
no, oh, yeah.
I think it's a great role for folks early career or even mid career looking for a job change. Make a
Yeah.
huge impact.
And having the credibility with their own internal organization is extremely important. If you have credibility with your counterparts on the end user side, which are the people that we're working with mostly when we're engaged in deals and opportunities, but to be able to have that person be the go-between and get the noise out of the way,
Yeah.
really helps build credibility, because those are the things that stick in people's minds. Like, you're not helping me, you're in the way. On the other hand, this person does everything. They knock the noise down. I get more deals done. They do what they say they're going to do, and that's not complicated.
Yeah.
It really isn't that hard to be nice, and it isn't that hard to do what you say you're going to do. But you would be surprised
Yeah, I know.
how many people don't, be a difference maker.
So let's take it up a notch. Let's talk about, I commented earlier, you and I both had the good fortune to be in channel chiefs. Now you deal with channel chiefs, right? Melillo is like, most of the solution providers I know, there's a long list of vendors that you can transact with. There's probably a dozen or so that really kind of make a difference. So you're interacting oftentimes, given your size and scale, with channel chiefs. As you look at now from your lens, what makes a good channel chief? And if there are folks that aspire to that role, any advice that you would give them in terms of modeling best practices and behaviors based upon what you've experienced in dealing with them?
Sure. First of all, it's a great role. It's probably one of the better roles, in any company, for a number of reasons. Number one, you get to talk to people every day. You get to talk to customers. You get to talk to, end user customers. You get to talk to partners,
Entrepreneurs. Yeah.
entrepreneurs. I mean, you build a network of relationships that most people would dream of. I bet you go back and you look at the LinkedIn profiles of all the channel chiefs, and they're in the thousands.
Yeah.
That was one of the benefits we had in our job, Terry, is over the 30 years, I dealt with thousands of partners across the Americas, and, built some pretty good friendships. I mean, to this day, even folks that have retired, folks like Peter Lorock and others, are still on speed dial, and, built some long lasting friendships because that job provided me the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
It gave me the visibility and opportunity to work with people. But I would say, to be more specific, great channel chiefs are not only strategic thinkers, but they're also good operational folks, and they understand really how partners make money. We understand that your paycheck's coming from your company, no question. But we also would like to see you fighting on our behalf, because not everybody.
Advocate role. Yeah.
Yeah, because you said it earlier. There's a lot of people who think the channel job is a retirement job. I can mail it in, and it's a great place to go to die, as they used to say. Great channel chiefs know better, and they're advocating on behalf of partners. I mean, I can name a number of vendors who were not channel friendly years ago, who woke up and figured out that there's a lot of partners out there that can do a lot of great things for them and expand their sales coverage at a level they didn't dream of. And having a channel chief who understands not only the strategic side of it, the operational side of it, how we make money and what is important to us, but yet better yet, can pick up that phone and they can call their counterpart on the end user side when there's a challenge or an issue, and have that credibility internally to be able to move the needle on behalf of the customer, on behalf of the partner. I think those are the critical skill sets that you need. And and I should have said this earlier. Your reputation is everything.
Yeah.
And I could think back of the Dave Bouchers of the world from IBM who built the channel at IBM and just had an incredible relationship across every partner you talk to. It was Dave Boucher this, Dave Boucher that. I think because people trusted him. He had integrity. He did the right thing. Doesn't always mean that we're going to get the right answer from
the answer you want, but yeah.
But having information and understanding that you did everything you could within your power as a channel chief to make it right for both your company and the partner, I think that skill. I mean, if more channel chiefs had that skill and capability of doing that, I think it would be a better world, because
yes.
In all honesty, some are afraid to fight their internal politics, and I'm not saying I blame them for that. Yeah. They've got families to feed and they have jobs and reputation, but the good ones, and Terry, you were great at this. You would fight hard on behalf of the partners, and every partner knew that, versus just saying, sorry, I can't do that. Well, we can't tell our customer that.
Yeah.
So
you and I both ran partner advisory boards, which was a great way to build relationships. Now I know, because of your reputation, you sit on a few. For any channel chief listening, from your perspective, what makes a good partner advisory board meeting? They typically meet 2 or 3 times a year. Like what makes a good one, a good board?
Yeah. Well, get the right people in the room.
Yeah.
First and foremost, even ones that I ran, I'd have people in the room that would never say anything, and then I'd have some in the room that wouldn't give anybody else a chance to say anything. And neither one of those are good, in my opinion. So first and foremost, get the right people in the room.
Yep.
And you should know that as a channel chief based on your relationships with the partners. Also, get the right executives from the company to come.
Company execs, yeah.
We one of our biggest partners, we see the CEO at 2 or 3 out of the 4 that we have, and if not him, then we see the COO and the lines of business leaders, people that can provide valuable input. Because the worst thing that can happen on a partner advisory board is you take 2 or 3 days out of your week to go travel to it, and you sit in there and you just get presented to the whole time. You get slide whipped. Here's what's going on. Here's the future product set. That's not what we want to talk about. We want to talk about how are we going to move the needle. What are the trends that are coming, and how do we as partners help you grow the business? So the good partner advisory boards, and I sit on one that's fantastic, is very good at getting information from the partners, but not only getting it, doing something with it. Yeah. Because, I think we can all attest to this, is how many meetings have we sat in where there's a great ideas floating around, and then it's crickets afterwards, and there's no follow up. There's nothing. People are like, okay, check this box. I've got this off my list. Yeah. But like I said, the one advisory board I sit on, it's the best advisory board I've ever been part of. It's consistent. They change over people that don't really provide enough value, and they listen. And I have seen programs not come out because the advisory board said no when they were 90% down the path.
Wow.
I've seen them present ideas 6 months in advance to say, we're thinking of doing this. What do you think? And then letting the partners, give them advice to tweak it, and then making those decisions to do that. Those are the valuable ones. But to go sit and there and get slide whipped for 2 days and never have a chance to get
on the future product roadmap. I remember your eyes would gloss over on product pitches. You'd much rather talk about real business issues or things that advance,
Yeah,
advance
yeah.
relationships. But I'm impressed. You've been, the way you agentic AI and some of the things you're focused on rolled off your tongue. You've definitely turned the corner and you're embracing
Well,
technology a bit more.
I kind of think you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, we're engaged in a lot of conversations, but the partner advisory boards are great opportunities to talk, to talk to your peers about what they're doing in a non-competitive type of environment.
Yeah.
You build a lot of great relationships there, but you want to provide value to the OEM. And I'm not there just to help Malillo's business. I'm hopefully there to provide them because they're
Represent
strategic.
the rest of the channel partners that aren't there as to what's going to help,
Yeah.
really move the needle.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what's good for the channel is normally good for most partners.
Yep.
So,
Another question I'd love your perspective on. You made the comment earlier, I think it was related to the conversations around AI and all the technology advances where you're dealing with companies you never heard of. For anyone listening that, wants to grow through channel partnerships as a way to scale revenue, short words of advice that you give them to make it successful?
yeah. Well, don't roll out a channel program unless you're ready to support it. The channel sounds great. Like, hey, I can build all this scale, and I can,
everyone will do all my selling, and
yeah.
I'll sit
But unless
back.
you're ready to enable the channel to be able to sell, you have to learn how to deal with adversity or channel conflict. And if you don't have all that ready prior to launching a channel program, don't do it.
Yep.
I've seen that a number of times where, hey, we're channel only. Okay, great. But there's no enablement tools. There's no training in place.
Right.
They make certifications complicated, and people don't, partners don't want to waste SA's bench time, doing this if there's not a financial model.
Right. That works.
That works, right? So, do your homework. Make sure you have all this stuff lined up ahead of time, and you should have a successful channel rollout. But so that's the best advice I can give in my opinion.
No, it's helpful. A couple other questions. I'm going to ask you to look back now on a very long and distinguished career. Kind of as you think about it, who were some of the mentors or the coaches or the folks that you had the strongest relationship with that really helped you kind of navigate your career as you've kind of moved into different roles?
Yeah. I mean,
it's probably a fairly long list knowing you and the type of relationships you built, but any that kind of rise to the top?
Yeah, there's a couple. Obviously we've all worked for good bosses, and unfortunately we probably worked for ones that weren't as good.
Yeah.
And I've learned from both. The toughest leader I worked for, I learned the most from, and I didn't like him. He just wasn't a person that you could get close to, but the demands that he put on me made me better. So I'm not sure that I'd want to work for him again, but I'll tell you, I don't think I'd be sitting in this chair right now if I didn't.
Wow.
Because he it was discipline. It was how to run board meetings. It was, it was, all about the culture and the servant leadership. And so and that was later in my career that I had a lot of experience, and, but I didn't know what I needed to know. And he forced me to be able to do that, which I'm forever grateful for.
That's a great comment, because a lot of people, if they're in a role with a difficult boss, they want to put their energy into running to something different,
Yeah.
Where you saw an opportunity to learn and grow and kind of get through a difficult, series of assignments, but you come out like way better and more prepared for future roles. That's really interesting.
Well, it's almost like, and maybe this just goes back to my, football days. And, I had coaches that I just couldn't stand, that back in the day, they'd, slap you in the head, grab you by your face mask, tell you you're ugly. I mean, they would do whatever they can to get you fired up. this was a different level of, hey, I expect somebody of with your experience to know this. And, this is the expectation that I'm setting for you. Clear direction, clear direction. And I think today, we as leaders sometimes are afraid to do that because, to your point, people just say, hey, I don't like this. You're too hard on me, leave.
Right.
I guess it depends on the person you are. I could have definitely taken it that way, but I looked at it as like, hey, if I want to do better at this job, I need to be better at these things. And he's not wrong. I mean, on the other hand, I had a boss who you know well, Terry, who the first thing he said to me, he said, my goal with you is to make the life of the Dunsire family better. I've never had a boss.
Pretty good. Think about that. Yeah.
And you don't think you're going to endure yourself to somebody like that who
put you at the center.
Yeah, and he didn't say, this is about me hitting my number so I look good to my boss. This is him saying, I'm going to focus on you to be able to make this the best experience for you, and so you can provide more for your family and have a better life.
Wow.
So, there's probably a happy medium in there somewhere. But I would have laid on the railroad tracks, for the guy, because he backed up what he said, and gave me the opportunity. So mentoring, can come in a lot of different ways, I think, depending on who you're talking to. But I think we all need them in our careers. Every one of the jobs I got was from somebody I knew. It was never just sticking in a resume and saying, hey, I want a job. It's, and you're building these relationships, and they start at a young age, and your reputation follows you.
Yeah.
So the decisions you make early in your career will definitely impact where you end up in the latter.
So that's really great advice. You and I both have sons that have gotten involved in technology, which is great. Any other advice for those that are kind of in the earlier phase of their career, just kind of getting started? Like, what other advice besides what you do in the relationship you form early matter? Any other advice that you would give?
Yeah, show up. Be visible. If you're working remote, go to offices where people are.
Yeah.
If they don't know, if somebody doesn't know you, you're out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And you can mail it in at that point, but that's not going to move your career. So
that's the curse of remote work for this generation, right? I mean, a lot of them think that they get out of school, they just do that, but they miss out so much.
No, they do. I would say, if you're young, starting out in your career, be willing to do things that other people aren't. I mean, I told this to my sons and other folks. I wouldn't be where I was, if I wasn't the guy that raised my hand and said, I'll go out on Sunday night. I'll do this. When somebody else said, no, I got a commitment, I've got to do this, I would say, I'll do it. I was always willing to do things that some people weren't willing to do because it was a disruption of their personal schedule. And, I didn't take that approach. Now, you could argue, is that good or bad? Everybody has a different opinion on it. But for me, I had to work harder than others to achieve where I needed to get to. So I was always willing to take that, take that trip, get on that airplane, and go places where others weren't willing to do it.
So last question, speaking of airplanes and trips, you've been able to do a lot of great experiences, during your journey through the stages of your career. Any that top couple that really stand out, either stories or experiences that you want to share?
Well, playing Augusta National.
Well, that's a humble brag. Yeah, more than once, if I remember.
More than once was pretty special. All because of the relationships, that I built early on in my career. That was special. There was a trip to Japan, internal trip to Japan, when I was young in my career with, folks and their spouses, and that was fantastic. Went to the factory and spent a great time there. And then the Ingram Vista trips. I mean, you get the CEO level folks, you get the top vendor sponsors, and it's always somewhere nice. I mean, it was in Croatia, 1 year in Italy, and you're spending quality time with the people. I think those Vista trips were pretty hard to beat, and
Yeah,
I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it. But you're right, the Pebble Beach events that we did when I was at HPE were special.
yeah.
We were very fortunate to be able to do some great things with some really good people.
Well, I'll warn you when we retire that the hardest part about retirement is those things stop,
Yeah, yeah, you don't get the invite.
You don't get the invites, but
Yeah.
it's still, you still have the memories and you still have the great experiences. Well, Scott,
Oh, for sure.
we ran a little bit long, but this has really been terrific. I appreciate you joining. You look great. You're keeping yourself in
Thank you.
great shape. I'm thrilled that you're still enjoying what you're doing. You're adding great value for Mark and the team at Melillo. So really
Thanks.
great to catch up.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks again for making time. I know this one got rescheduled, but I'm glad we finally did it. Your comments were right on the money, impactful, and I hope the listeners were paying close attention, because you served up some really insightful comments, including the value relationships, the way you're thinking about forming culture at Melillo, and the good cultures you've been part of. And I think for those in channel roles, the focus on adding value,
Yeah.
and showing up with a purpose, I thought really resonated. So thanks for sharing that. And I'll close with saying thanks to everyone for joining. And I also want to thank, Tucker, Randy, and the sales community team for their ongoing support. So until next time, good selling to all. Talk soon.
Okay. See you, Terry. Bye.